Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Brothers Reborn. We're glad to have you. I'm Matthew,
And I'm Daniel,
and we are the
the
Brothers
Brothers
Reborn.
Reborn.
All right, so today we're moving right on in Proverbs, going to Proverbs chapter 10. Today is the 10th, and we have Proverbs chapter 10 today, which is the Proverbs of Solomon. The Proverbs of Solomon. That's how it starts off. Today's is actually a good, they're all good, but today's talks a lot about, living living a godly life and a life of discipline and things like that. And it's just some really good tips. And to all of those who listened yesterday, I hope you did your challenge. And if they were on your mind, I hope you reached out to them. If you didn't, do it today. Right? If for some reason, or do it now, do it tomorrow. But if for some reason you weren't able to, try and make sure you do that, because they were put on your heart for a reason. Right? And when we do those things, we're being obedient. And obedience is good, right? Obedience leads to those promises that we want. And, I was doing a little research with Jonah today, and I seen this quote um, by this guy. His name's Eric Mason, and I don't have it right in front of me right now, but I'm going to give you the gist of it. It basically said, most people like what God has to say until they're called to action. Right? So, and what he was saying by that is we all love to read about his promises and say, "Oh, God's going to do this and this and this and this," because he said that he would, right? But there's also the part where he says, "Obey me, listen to me, do my will, not your will," right? Obey my commands. So we all love what God is saying until he says, "All right, go do this." And then we go, "Wait, huh? I don't want to do that." That's kind of what Jonah said, right? So, a lot of other people, Moses, right? He said it. Abraham did it. There's countless amounts of people in the Bible who did that. So as I seen that quote today, I thought, man, that is really, really cool because it's so very true.
Right, right.
A lot of us, we really focus on all the good things that God says, but we don't focus on that part where he says, be obedient and do as I say. That's how you get all these things. That's where they come from, doing what you're supposed to do.
You know, what I've realized a lot of times with a lot of people is that that they'll be obedient or start being obedient, and then as it gets a little bit harder, then they just kind of fall off to the wayside. Um, it's getting harder because he's trusting you with more, but as long as you still trust him, you'll find out it's actually easy once you start. Getting started sometimes the hardest thing
Hmm.
to do.
Absolutely. And staying diligent. There's many people in the Bible who did good, and then faltered. I talk about him all the time. Peter. He was good and faithful, good and faithful, good and faithful. He walked at a distance. Right? Sometimes we do the same thing. But a lot of us look and trust on the promises of God. And when we do that, he looks and trusts us to do his will. That's what he wants you to do. And when we don't, it's kind of like, what are we doing here? You want everything, but you don't want to give anything, right? And that's our sinly nature. That's our fleshly nature. We want everything, and we don't want to have to do nothing for it, right? That's people being people. But it's really important as we go forward, and as those things happen in your life, like last night, that person that came to mind. There's a reason. That was God saying, "Be obedient and talk to them." Now it's your turn. If you haven't, do it. God's a God of second chances anyway. We're going to talk about that more later on, but He really is. And here's another chance. That person that was on your mind, talk to them. If it was two, talk to both of them, right? That's what we need to do. We have to continue to be obedient each and every day. So, with that, I will go ahead and start us off in the proverb of the day. Proverbs chapter 10 starts off the Proverbs of Solomon. The Proverbs of Solomon. A wise child brings joy to a father, a foolish child brings grief to a mother. Tainted wealth has no lasting value, but right living can save your life. The Lord will not let the godly go hungry, but he refuses to satisfy the craving of the wicked. Lazy people are soon poor, hard workers get rich. A wise youth harvests in the summer, but one who sleeps during harvest is a disgrace. The godly are showered with blessing. The words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. We have happy memories of the godly, but the name of a wicked person rots away. The wise are glad to be instructed, but babbling fools fall flat on their faces. People with integrity walk safely, but those who follow crooked paths will be exposed. People who wink at wrong cause trouble, but a bold reproof promotes peace. The words of the godly are a life giving fountain. The words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. Hatred stirs up quarrels, but love makes up for all offenses. Wise words come from the lips of people with understanding, but those lacking sense will be beaten with a rod. Wise people treasure knowledge, but the babbling of a fool invites disaster. The wealth of the rich is their fortress, the poverty of the poor is their destruction. The earnings of the godly enhance their lives, but evil people squander their money on sin.
People who accept discipline are on the pathway to life, but those who ignore correction will go astray. Hiding hatred makes you a liar. Slandering others makes you a fool. Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut.
Mm.
The words of the godly are like sterling silver. The heart of a fool is worthless. The words of the godly encourage many, but fools are destroyed by the lack of common sense. The blessing of the Lord makes a person rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Doing wrong is fun for a fool, but living wisely brings pleasure to the sensible. The fears of the wicked will be fulfilled, the hopes of the godly will be granted. When the storms of life come, the wicked are whirled away, but the godly have a lasting foundation. Lazy people irritate their employers like vinegar to the teeth or smoke in the eyes. Fear of the Lord lengthens one's life, but the years of the wicked are cut short. The hopes of the godly result in happiness, but the expectations of the wicked come to nothing. The way of the Lord is a stronghold to those with integrity, but it destroys the wicked. The godly will never be disturbed, but the wicked will be removed from the land. The mouth of the godly person gives wise advice, but the tongue that deceives will be cut off. The lips of the godly speak helpful words, but the mouth of the wicked speaks perverse words.
Mm. You see how a lot of that talks about fools and what they get? They get thrown, they get whirled around, they get disgraced. They don't get the good things. But wise people, and it says in here, it says many, many times, the godly, the godly, the godly, right? Those are people that are trying their best, trying their absolute best to go forth and live a life that is pleasing to God, right? That's what they're
Right.
trying to do. Those are the people that are godly. And we're not talking about people pretending, right? It's not talking about the great pretenders. It's talking about people who are actually trying to please the Lord, right? Fools are the people that are easy to go, that guy right there is a fool,
Hmm.
right? that guy right there is a nut. You know, we think that a lot of times about people. I think one of the biggest things that I like about this is when it talks about too much talk leads to sin. There's a lot of people out there that need to read that again and again and again and again. Okay? Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut. There are many times in your life when you just need to keep your mouth shut. That's
Mm,
what you need to do.
amen.
Just be quiet. Be still. Know that God is God and He's going to take care of it, right? But no, many times we want to talk. And this just isn't talking about, you know, talking to people about other people or this or that. This is just generally too much idle talking to people is going to start leading to things that don't need to be said.
And so many people want to have the last word,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's a big one too. That would kind of go into that verse as well. Just whatever it may be, let them win. Let them be foolish and let them win, or let them think they won because you you just can't. You can't. When somebody, even though they're wrong, is convinced they're right, only God can show them that they're wrong.
A lot of times, yes, and it even talks about that before. You know, don't try and correct somebody who is wicked, right? And don't try and correct the mockers, and don't. Solomon talks about. We just read that, right? So, and a lot of times that's what happens right here with the too much talk leads to sin and all that. It's you just you want to do that, and sometimes you're wrong. Okay, that's the truth. Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you're quick to say something. We've already talked about in James. We read in James the tongue cannot be tamed, right? If it could be, we'd all be perfect.
Mm,
We'd have nothing to worry about. There'd be nothing wrong with us if we could tame the tongue. So sometimes all that talking you're doing, the reason it's leading to sin is because you're wrong. And then you keep trying to prove a point, and the more and more you try and prove a point, the farther and farther you get away from doing what's godly. Because you just have to prove a point. It's very simple, but it's very hard to do sometimes. The simple thing is just shut your mouth, close it. Is that easy? Not always. Like he was talking about, a lot of times we like to have the last word, right? We want to just get that last little quip in. Sometimes we just want to talk. And the only people that want to talk are people who don't want to talk about godly things.
right.
And that's why we talk about a lot about surrounding yourself with wise counsel. It says the lips of the godly speak helpful words, but the mouth of the wicked speaks perverse words. That can tie right into what it was talking about. Too much talk leads to sin. If you're talking to somebody and you see that their words are not godly words, it's a good moment for you to say, you know what, I probably don't need to be in this conversation much longer. Right? Find a way to get out of it or just simply zip it. Don't say nothing. Because a lot of times a wicked person, they get even more wicked from the pleas of other people, right? They kind of let other people build them up. You know, we call it ad libbing a lot of times. Somebody over there going, and they said this, and they did that. And then this person over here, they, and then this little flame is now a big, humongous, burning thing. Those things you don't need to be around. Fear of the Lord lengthens one's life. When I was reading that earlier today, I thought, wow, that is really, really cool right there because a lot of the people that are in my life that I deal with now, that I go when I'm teaching these classes and I'm working with these people, a lot of them, to get to where they are now, they didn't have a healthy fear of the Lord. And they were very close to ending up in a grave, right? They were very close because of the wicked things that they were doing. It was by the grace of God that they're not in the grave. And helping people see that, some of you need to see that right now. It's by the grace of God that I'm here today, that I'm right here. It's by the grace of God that He's here. It's by the
Hmm.
grace of God that you're here. I'm sure there's plenty of you whose lives you can think right now. You can think about something to say. You know what? If it wouldn't have been for God being with me then, I wouldn't be here today. Right? There's a lot of us that have those stories. There's a lot of us that have been through that. And I was just talking to the guys Monday, and I was saying, people can see that. There's people out there that go, "Whew, God was with him. You sure know God was with him." That's the things that we should be telling everybody. God's with us always. Those are those godly words that we should be saying. That's that wisdom that we should be sharing with others. That's why when I say whoever was put on your heart, you need to talk to them. I mean it. I'm not boasting or anything here, but the person that was put on my heart, I reached out to him last night. I did because I had to. Right? I had to. That's what happens. And then remember, you'll try and talk yourself out of it. It's late. They're tired. I'm tired. Right? Whatever it may be. Don't talk yourself out of doing what the Father has put on your heart. I can tell you now that that wasn't just given willy nilly. That was brought to me. I told you last night my spirit knew that people needed to hear that. Your spirit knew. That's why somebody was put on your heart. And that's why you have to do it. And so, and don't nobody's getting on to anybody or saying that we're betterer or worser than anybody. I'm just saying, do it. You know, just do it now, or do it when you watch this. Do it when you see this. Do it. Pause if you have to. But sometimes we need to slow down and we just need to do stuff. We don't need to say, "I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I'll get to it." Some of those things you just need to do right now. You don't have to wait to get to them. Just go ahead and do them. And then guess what? They're done. It's over with. And you've been obedient. All right there, just that fast. And I guarantee you, if you're being obedient to God, whatever it is that you were trying to put off God's work for, if it's important, God will make sure it's still there. Right? If you go ahead and just be obedient and do what He wants you to do, if what you were trying to put Him off for was important, He'll make sure it waits for you. And if it don't wait for you, count it as a blessing. You probably didn't need it. If you're doing something for the Father and you lose an opportunity somewhere else, you didn't lose nothing. I promise you. You didn't lose nothing doing God's will. You only gained. That's a promise. So if something went by the wayside because you was over here helping somebody learn about the Lord and you were making wise choices, guess what? Whatever that was you were trying to do was not a wise choice. It wasn't a good one. When you can start thinking about things like that in your life and you start realizing, okay, by trusting God and doing His will, by doing the things He puts on my heart, He gives me the path to victory. He gives me the path to success. Those aren't just my words, that's from the Bible. We just read in this very proverb right here in Proverb 10 how he talks about all the things that the godly get, all the success that they will have by being wise and being godly people. Love makes up for all offenses. That's a big one too. If you just read that, love makes up for all offenses. That's in verse 12. Hatred stirs up quarrels, but love makes up for all offenses. we'll get into that when we get into Jonah too, talking about love, and it's really big. And it's just, I if I don't watch out, I'll be preaching Jonah tonight, and we'll be like, is this Proverbs and Jonah, or what's going on? So, um, but yeah, we just remember that when those things are put on your heart, when God talks to you, listen, and don't just listen, but do. We talked about in James listening and doing, right? Not just listening, but listening and doing. That's what you got to do. So many times in our lives, just like I was telling you about what Eric Mason said, we all love what God has to say till he calls us to do something. We love his words. And then when he says, hey, it's a call to action, we're like, whoop, whoop, whoop. Hold on. I'm going to Tarshish, right? That's what we do. That's just the way we do. And whether it's fear or it's just plain idiocy, foolishness, ignorance, you know, ignorance isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes you really don't know, right? Some people are ignorant because they don't know any better. That's not a bad thing. We have to teach them, right? If somebody doesn't know God, tell them about him. Somebody doesn't know Jesus, tell them about him. Then guess what? They won't be ignorant no more. Then they'll know. And then you can say, hey, you want to talk about him some more? You want to do some more? You want to, fellowship? You want to go to church with me? You want to do something, right? You can continue. And then your cup's full, you fill theirs and let them fill somebody else's. That's what we're called to do. And I don't know if any, well, I do know. I do know that there's people out there that are getting something out of Proverbs that are watching. I know you are because I can feel it in my spirit that you're getting something. But I'm telling you, we only through 10. We still got 21 more to go. Think of where you're at right now, and oh boy, where you're gonna be by the time we get to number 31, chapter 31. Oh man, we're gonna be full. Our cup's gonna be so we might have 3 cups. One cups all over the place, right? And that's just from Proverbs. And there's so many books, and there's 66 love letters in this Bible, right? That's how many books there are. 66 in here. Read them. They're good stuff. I was just studying up on Jonah today, which got me studying up on the Gospels, and then I was studying up on the Gospels, and that got me even more into Jesus. And then I had to go take what I call a Jesus break, right? I had to go sit there and say, all right, now I got to talk to you so that you can guide me. Because I done pulled so much stuff in, now I need you to come and say, hey, all right, now you take this step, then this step, then this step. Yeah, I didn't mean Jesus break like I was taking a break from Jesus. No, I took a break with Jesus, right? Yeah, I didn't take a break away from him. I took a break with him. I said, hey, look, now I done learned all this stuff. I need you to guide me. I have that wisdom and that knowledge. I need to understand and to use it, right? To use it wisely. So when you start getting full, take a Jesus break. That's a break where you call Jesus into your little section where you at and you say, all right, let's talk. Okay. I need to talk to you, Father, so that you can tell me what to do with this knowledge that you just gave me. You give me your word, Father, now. Show me how to use it. I promise you he will. I promise you he will. If you seek him to guide you, he's going to guide you. And that's my mock up of chapter 10 and a bunch of other stuff all jumbled into one. You good?
I'm good.
Well, that means we are great then, and everybody's going to leave here tonight betterer, and we're going to have a wonderful evening, and we're going to wake up with joy in the morning, right? It says in the Bible tells us that joy comes in the morning, so you can't tell me you wake up without joy. It comes in the morning. So as we leave here tonight, let all hearts be clear. Whoever's on your heart, if you haven't talked to him, if you haven't reached out to him, make sure you reach out to him. We thank you for watching. We look forward to seeing you next time. God bless.